Jared Diamond wrote a book called Guns, Germs, and Steel. And one of the problems he had was trying to address why China not failed, but didn't succeed as well as the West. And one of the most compelling answers to this, in my opinion, is the idea of the European miracle. That is, after the fall of Rome, there really was no replacement empire. And what did this mean? It meant that Europe devolved into basically a decentralized polity. You had smaller states, and you also had competition between the church and the states as well. And what did this mean? It meant that someone like Martin Luther could go from one German state to another in order to escape persecution. It meant that, for example, in Italy, if Leonardo couldn't find work in Florence, he might go to Venice, or Michelangelo, or something like that. I mean, you compare, the advances of Italy pre-unification to post-unification. This happened all over Europe. Now, what is to be done? Armed struggle, it doesn't really seem to be worth it. I think that a gradualist approach would be much more intelligent. It allows you to maintain the moral high ground, and frankly, unless it's self-defense, I disagree with it. Same with civil disobedience. Civil disobedience can be used, but just be prepared to go to jail for it. Frankly, it's better than armed struggle, but I don't think we've reached the point where it's really necessary. Local political initiatives are good. For example, maybe a movement or a petition to repeal the 17th Amendment. There's some state sovereignty initiatives that might be supported. Education. A lot of people, especially up north, seem to equate the idea of secession as code or something. You're a neo-Confederate or some such nonsense. Bring up someone like Lysander Spooner, who was vehemently anti-slavery, and also strongly pro-secession. Bring up someone like Garrison, who hated the Constitution. Bring up the fact the abolitionists a lot of them were pro-secessionists, especially the Garrisonites. Ask them if they would have supported secession if it had been against slavery. Bring up current events. For example, nullification. People think nullification, they think, Jim Crow or something. But bring up medical marijuana, for example. Tell someone, don't you think that the state should interpose in order to protect a patient's right to have access to medical marijuana? Bring up current events. Ask them what they're interested in and relate that to them. Finally, we see the picture of the Vatican City. The Vatican City is probably what would be kind of the Hoppian ideal for a size of a state. Kind of like the idea that you could drive from Charleston to Richmond and go through hundreds of individual countries. What would this mean? It would mean that just regardless of the system, the state would have to limit its tyrannical inclinations. You could have a prince or democracy, it really wouldn't matter, because if the state's that small, then the people can simply move. They vote with their feet, and you'd still maintain with the same orbit of culture, it'd just be the political would be different. When is this going to happen? Probably not for a long time. Anything close to this ideal didn't happen until the fall of Rome, and that took quite a while. So I don't think you're going to see this anytime soon.